The killing of George Floyd was a heinous act. And now the iconic scene of his murder has rightly repulsed America and many around the world. A great majority of American Jews have expressed support for the Black Lives Matter movement. Throughout the history of the black struggle for equality in America, Jews were consistently in the forefront. It was young Jews like Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner who went to Mississippi in 1964 to register black people to vote. They and James Chaney were all murdered by the Ku Klux Klan. While the slogan "Black Lives Matter" is a justified plea for equal treatment and a passionate commitment to the well-being of our black Americans, one of the organizations leading the nationwide protests is itself called Black Lives Matter, a not-for-profit entity.
I believe that the organization itself is using black people to advance a Marxist agenda, and the corporations, the schools, the churches, the people that have gotten behind Black Lives Matter, the organization, they think they're helping black people. They think they're showing support for black people, but actually it's the opposite.
The Black Lives Matter organization is a decentralized network of activists with no formal hierarchy. This enables radical leaders to hide behind crowds of well-meaning people and also avoid responsibility and accountability. While purportedly combating racism, these demonstrations have intensified the already prevalent anti-Semitism from vociferous anti-Zionists and Jew-baiters. The founding leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement are hostile to Jews and pose a clear danger to Jewish well-being. An important segment of the Black Lives Matter movement is anti-Semitic, with many interlocking connections to the BDS movement. This is a painful truth that is difficult for the Jewish community to deal with. The Black Lives Matter leaders have strong Marxist backgrounds. The original 2016 Black Lives Matter manifesto contains vicious demonization of Jews, including blood libels and conspiracy theories. The U.S. justifies and advances the global war on terror via its alliance with Israel and is complicit in the genocide taking place against the Palestinian people. In 2020, the manifesto was modified to camouflage direct hatred of Jews. Instead, it states that Israel contributes to the shackling of our community. The movement to support blacks is being hijacked by radical Arabs and Muslims who spread hatred for the Jewish state and threaten violence against American Jews who support it.
You gotta abolish the Zionistic state of Israel. Al-Mawtli Israel! Al-Mawtli America!
Resistance is justified from New York to Palestine. Black Lives Matter! No Palestinian liberation without black liberation.
The minister Louis Farrakhan, leader of the Nation of Islam and an avowed anti-Semite, has influenced Black Lives Matter leaders.
Talking about the wicked ones in the Jewish community that run America, run the government, run the world.
Black Lives Matter Los Angeles co-founder Melina Abdullah, a Farrakhan acolyte, claimed that a Zionist Israel murders and terrorizes the Palestinian people. In a protest organized and promoted by Black Lives Matter in the Fairfax neighborhood of Los Angeles, Jewish store owners were assaulted. Restaurants, synagogues, and Jewish schools were defaced and looted. Demonstrators were heard screaming, "Kill the Jews." Synagogues were defaced with graffiti reading, "F Israel" and "Free Palestine." Like the pogroms in Europe, the police did nothing. What is astonishing is that the vast majority of Jews regard it as incumbent on them to be seen supporting the BLM movement, despite its anti-Semitic components. Despite almost universal Jewish support for Black Lives Matter, and despite multiple requests, Black Lives Matter leaders have not disavowed their anti-Israel, anti-Jewish statements, and have failed to prevent a surge of anti-Semitic violence in the aftermath of the Floyd murder. Black Lives Matter has been very successful in promoting necessary police reform, as demonstrated by the institutional response. Radicals behind the movement are now exploiting this success as a shield to silence criticism and as a hammer to promote their radical agendas. Black Lives Matter radical Marxist agenda for destroying Western civilization and Israel includes indoctrinating students in Marxism, eliminating the nuclear family structure, abolishing all police and prisons, redistribution of wealth, rebranding of Israel as a white supremacist entity, and Jews as white supremacists. All of this has created a painful dilemma for the Jewish community. How do we balance our commitment to social justice and ending racism without ignoring the anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic activities? Our sympathy and concern for African Americans should not blind us to ugly realities. As Jews, we don't need to apologize when others engage in anti-Semitism, no matter who the perpetrator of the anti-Semitic act is. Some Jews have fallen for the delusion that they need to join BLM in order to help moderate its radicals. The only explanation for this travesty is that many Jews believe that the way to maintain their standing as liberals guilty of white privilege is to back Black Lives Matter. Jews ignore the diminishing influence and utility of the Jewish community to the radical movements because of ideological hatred of Jewish and Israeli success. Jew haters view our idealism and compassion as weakness and have long learned how to use it against us. Black Lives Matter leaders portray Jews as rich and privileged whites who need to be marginalized in order to redistribute power and who deserve no sympathy. We cannot afford to be fooled. Jews should not support organizations that incite hatred against our community in order to fight racism. We cannot afford to allow our compassion for social justice to delude us about the ugly reality of a dangerous form of Jew hatred emerging from non-traditional sources. Black Lives Matter is encouraging poisonous hatred against the Jewish community. We must speak out about this painful truth while continuing our fight against racism.